He's going to be the next target in the eyes of Samsung Galaxy. And can they bring the universe down on Meteos' head? Yes, they can. Hideaway flashed out by Ambition. Ooh. Slicing Maelstrom on 3 members. The shockwave from Crown, and Cloud9 is melting. Smoothie's flash just went down. The rinse and repeat works. And that's the verdict as well that calls for Sneaky. And it looks like Samsung Galaxy will be moving on to the semifinals at Madison Square Garden.
Good evening and welcome to Worlds Tonight. We're here from the Chicago Theater. My name's Quickshot and I am joined by Clement and Azael as we break down today's action and look a little bit forward. And Clement, Samsung Galaxy, they came out the gate swinging today.
They looked amazing. We're looking at 3 teams in the Korean semifinals right now.
Yeah, and I mean, C9 on the other side, they lost as a team. They just looked outclassed.
Yeah, they really did. Let's start by taking a look at how those games actually rolled out. Starting with game 1 of the day, it was a 27-minute slugfest, but it was Cloud9 that were taking every single punch.
Yeah, and C9, you know, they had an okay start, but it's this gank was not followed up on properly there by Smoothie, mistimed. Crown's able to turn around a 1v3 to get the first blood, a solo kill, and this was really kind of a sign of things to come. Jensen did have a little bit of a fight back here where he was able to get a solo kill of his own, but C9 was never able to capitalize on the fact that Crown was missing summoners. And you know, as it came later into the game, Samsung, as I said, they win as a team. These guys were so well coordinated. They worked very well together the entire game, and they're able to pick up an ace. They're able to take the Baron and close out this game pretty quickly.
It just felt so desperate for Cloud9. Yeah. They end up losing, as you mentioned, 27 minutes on the clock. Going back, resetting, jumping into game 2, the game was a little longer. Cloud9 had a much earlier game strategy, Clement, but it still didn't work out.
Yeah, the teams, when C9 was looking at it, they said, like, it must have been the carries, so they swapped positions on the carries, but the laning phase still goes the same. You see right here, Ruler's just outclassing Sneaky in this entire series. At minute 27, everything was pretty even, but watch Cuvées engage right here. He gets 4 mana on the cannon ultimate, and then Crown comes in, another 4-man shockwave, and this game is just pretty much over from there. They pick up the Baron, and at 31 minutes, this is like C9's last fight. You see Samsung Galaxy going a little too aggressive, actually gets 2 of their players killed, but it's a little too late for C9 to really mount a comeback. At minute 38 right here, you see Samsung going for the final push, and again, this is the Ruler show. He's sidestepping things, he's dodging skill shots, and he just finishes really surprisingly and super strong.
And this is where the Cloud9 trap card was supposed to activate, meant to reverse sweep. It happens not this time, Azael.
No, it really didn't, and a lot of North American fans are hoping for it, but I mean, Cloud9 showed some signs of life in this game. They were actually almost 2,000 gold ahead just from laning phase. They were doing very well, but then they got too overconfident. They gave up kills, and this is, you know, one of those times where Cuvée was able to stop Jace's TP. He's able to join in this fight later. They were able to get a lot of kind of return kills because C9 was going over aggressive, and while C9 did fight it out, you can see the scoreboard 14-5 at that point, and 31 minutes into the game. This is where it all kind of went tragic for C9. Samsung was able to chase them down and really clean that one up pretty quickly.
Yeah, it seemed like a really one-sided affair here today. So the first of the Korean teams advances to the semifinals. They will be facing off against H2K versus Albus Nox Luna. That's going to be an interesting matchup on Sunday.
I'm really looking forward to the support matchup. I think that's going to be the, like, realistically speaking, the closest matchup, and they're both Zyra players. Licrit versus Core JJ.
For me, the big story is also in the bot lane, but it's about the AD carries. Forgiven has been having an amazing tournament. A Miracle has statistically been the worst AD carry in the entire tournament. I think this one is going to go for H2K.
All right, so that will be taking place on Sunday. Tomorrow, however, we will see SK Telecom taking on Royal Never Give Up. Azael, what do you attribute that game to be decided? Who's going to win and why?
It's as a team. I don't think it's about the solo lanes. I don't think it's about those individual advantages. SKT has shown they can play all kinds of different drafts, and they can show that they can play them so well. It's just hard to find a hole in their game right now.
On an individual level, I actually think RNG has some chances. Mata against Wolf and MLXG against Bang, or maybe Blank, or maybe Bengi. But overall, just following Azael's point, I think SKT's going to come out ahead. We
will talk a little bit more about that. I want to hear why you say so. Everybody at home, if you are still watching within the client, be sure to jump over to youtube.com/LOL Esports as we're going to continue the discussion about today and looking forward. All right, and welcome back to Worlds Tonight from the Chicago Theater. Before we look forward, before we talk about some of the more exciting stuff, let's start with a sad note. Azael, Cloud9, they're out of the tournament. maybe it was a surprise for them to even make quarterfinals.
Yeah.
But I thought they were going to put up more of a fight today.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly was hoping that they were, but I can't say I was super surprised with the result. I think that Samsung on the last day of group stages, they looked incredible. C9 kind of limped into the quarterfinals a little bit here, and although C9 had some good individual performances, they had some laning advantages. Samsung just played so much better as a team, and to me, Kuve was the catalyst to winning all 3 games. The first game, he's smashing him on Echo. Game 2, it's that Ken and TP. Game 3, Poppy solo kills. This guy was doing everything.
I mean, but hang on now. Impact was meant to be the saving star here. So why did Kuve make Impact look so mediocre?
I think like Impact played over aggressive at times. Sometimes his bot lane was pushing in, they're taking tower, but then he's just trying to shove the wave in when he doesn't have mana and gets solo killed right here. Like, this is just a Kuve highlight right here. This is game 1. You see him on 3 different matchups, winning all 3 of them. Some of these shouldn't even be won. Like, Poppy should be down CS. He's actually getting a solo kill right there. And also the teleport play from Kuve was spot on.
It just felt like Impact didn't have much today. He wasn't really on his game. Sneaky was caught out of position a bunch. It felt to me as though Jensen was the only player that really showed up here in Chicago.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. I think that it's tough for Sneaky, partly because of the compositions and partly because they're so far behind against kind of bulldozer type teams with Poppy and Olaf. But Jensen showed up as far as laning phase. He actually won both sides of the Orianna Cassiopeia, getting a solo kill, and then completely dominated him again in game 3 as far as laning phase goes. But you know, the team play was just so much better for Samsung that the advantages in mid lane never really mattered.
Yeah, it didn't show through. Let's take a close look at CoreJJ. This is a support that sort of transformed Samsung Galaxy, not only in their regional league, but even here on the world stage. Samsung looks like a world finalist contender with that play. I've even heard some people saying the best showing team at Worlds. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's fair. They won every game with CoreJJ in the group stages when he was playing, and he's good on so many different champions. I think his Zyra play was very good. He brought out the Tahm Kench that saved so many summoners for Samsung in this play. And right over here, he just plays the laning phase so well with Ruler, and props to Ruler too for having a great day.
Yeah, CoreJJ showed up in a big way. I mean, Karma, Jin, they were killing a Sneaky over and over in lane. The Tahm Kench was almost a hard carry performance from a support. He was like 4-0-8, and he saved, what, like 20 people, 30 people that game? It was ridiculous.
It absolutely felt that way. Completely dominant game. Now, of course, that does mean Samsung Galaxy advance to New York, where they will take the stage in the Madison Square Garden, the most famous arena in the world. Who are they going to face off against? We talked very briefly about H2K and ANX. I want to hear your opinions. This is a matchup that's happening on Sunday, so let's not go too deep, but you know, what's going to be the deciding factor, Clement?
Well, I think it's probably going to be H2K right here. That comes out. I really want to see ANX, but it's going to be H2K. And I think
why?
Well, overall, I think they're stronger players in general, and I think Ryu has been playing a lot better performance. When you win all 3 lanes, like, ANX has to pull off some crazy stuff to get back into the game, and I don't think just on the individual laning phase they're going to get past H2K. H2K are not going to let them do that. One
of the things that has made H2K look so successful is their ability to not only win lanes, but they're always pushing in all lanes. They have so much aggression, so much kind of map presence because of this, and it allows Forgiven to play so aggressive in bot lane. He's always shoving in his opponents. He's always up massively in CS, and this guy I just think severely outclasses a Miracle, and that's why I think it's gonna be a tough matchup for ANX.
All right, so let's assume then H2K win this. Assume they don't tilt, which is something they have done many times before, right? So everything goes to plan on Sunday. H2K taking on Samsung Galaxy in Madison Square Garden. Okay, I'm gonna give you a second. What do you think of that? Is that?
I mean, how do you favor any team above Samsung that's coming from this side of the bracket right now after what they did to C9 tonight? I think it's really, really tough to say that H2K is a favorite against them. Do I think that H2K has the potential to put up a better fight and maybe make it a close series? Yeah, but I can't favor them over Samsung.
What if H2K shows up from Sunday last week that went 4-0, they took down EDG twice, that had great lanes? You really think that that's that big of a difference?
I actually think H2K is going to win. Like, when we look at this, Samsung has been ahead in all 3 games just from the laning phase. They don't look that good when they're coming from behind. We saw this in the Gauntlet as well against Africa. They didn't come behind, basically. They're not aggressive enough to make those moves. So I actually think H2K is going to ride the wave from the start and actually just finish the games.
We rarely get split opinions on the analyst, so I'm not going to let you go further. I'm going to leave this as is, and we'll see how the results play out. I want to talk about tomorrow, though, because it is, of course, going to be an incredibly hype matchup. SK Telecom taking on Royal Never Give Up. SKT are the heavy favorites. You guys already mentioned that earlier in the show. So what does Royal have to do right tomorrow to win?
To me, it's all about individual performances. Like you talked about, I think individually, RNG has some advantages and can have advantages. They can look for outplays. These are guys who are explosive players, who are very aggressive players. I mean, look no further than Uzi and some of his performances. Hard carry performance against TSM. Hard carry performance, probably the most dominant AD carry performance I've ever seen against Splice. This guy can get kills early, and he can take over a game single-handedly. So I think it's about individual performances for RNG. That has to be their way in.
I really want to talk about the stylistic differences. Like, RNG is a team that's so focused on the bot lane, and on the flip side, SKT wants to play really defensive. So if RNG actually can get ahead and push that matchup in their favor, I think there might be a chance, not a huge one.
And that said, it's going to be hard to do it. Bang almost never dies. This guy's so consistent, always has incredible KDA. So it's a big ask for Uzi to smash that lane, but if he could do it, who knows?
I've heard a lot of people saying RNG are good enough to take a game of SKT. Let's assume the individual players show up. Let's assume they can smash the bottom lane. Is it enough to take SKT in a best of 5?
No.
I think it's always possible. I mean, we have seen SKT coming into Worlds didn't look as strong, you know, jungle issues and stuff. If RNG really does show up on all lanes, they're all firing at playing at their top level. Yes, it's possible. I think it's always possible. But do I see it happening? No, I don't.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Let's get one final comment about the junglers, because I feel like Blank and Bengi have been quieter, let me say, than some of the other junglers at the tournament. And MLXG, I was expecting more from. So what do you think about the junglers and how they could interact in terms of the matchup?
Well, I think a lot depends on which side the mid lane is pushing. MLXG has said this as well. Like, his performance is directly influenced by if Xiaohu is good on the day, and he's against Faker right now. So I think a lot of that is going to be mitigated.
It's also tough because MLXG and Xiaohu both have not really been looking nearly as good as they did at MSI and stuff. If this was MSI, Xiaohu, and MLXG, and you have that same roster performing at that level, and then you add Uzi, then I actually agree with Mauta's statement that they could maybe beat SKT. But this is not the same team we saw at MSI. They're not performing at the same level, and because of that, it's hard to see them winning.
Azael, Mata said they can win. Uzi said he'll be surprised if they take a game. What is your prediction for tomorrow? And give me a score.
I mean, I'm going with Uzi because that's the most recent prediction, right?
Yep.
Mata's was back in MSI when they were performing very differently. I agree with Uzi. I think they're going to get smashed 3-0.
Clement, prediction and score?
I'm going to go 3-1 for SKT. I think RNG can pull off one surprise game if they, like, sub in Blank and they just, like, destroy him, but otherwise I don't see it.
All right, so my analysts favor SK Telecom. That game will kick off tomorrow, 5 p.m. Chicago time. I don't know where that is in America. I think it's Central. You guys figure it out over at lolesports.com. We will be back at 3 Pacific. We're going to kick off SK Telecom versus RNG.
Smoothie's going to be the next target in the eyes of Samsung Galaxy. And can they bring the universe down on Meteos' head? Yes, they can. Hideaway flashed out by Ambition. Slicing Maelstrom on 3 members. The shockwave from Crown, and Cloud9 is melting. Smoothie's flash just went down. The rinse and repeat works. And that's the verdict as well that calls for Sneaky. And it looks like Samsung Galaxy will be moving on to the semifinals at Madison Square Garden.